Hello my keto peeps, it's Samaya and welcome back to my channel, I Don't Sugarcoat. Today, I'm going to show you guys how to make my bread recipe in the bread machine. So let's get started. Before we begin, today's video is sponsored by Wholesome Provision. They are a company located right here in the US and they specialize in making keto and low carb friendly products. Go on their website today and check out their catalog of low carb goods. I am certain that you will find something that will meet your needs, from the beginner low carb baker to the more advanced low carb baker, or even if you're not looking for something to cook with and you just want some pre-made snacks, they've got it all on there and more. I will leave a link for their website in the description of today's video. Now let's jump into this recipe. Okay, you guys, so before you guys think that this is by mistake, and in case you haven't seen one of my other videos explaining it, no, I know I have my head dressing on, and it's just because it's really humid in Texas and my hair is not behaving. It's just waving up and it's not trying to lay down. So I will be wearing it for this series of videos. So let's go ahead and get started. The reason why I've decided to do my bread recipe in the bread machine, do a video for it, I should say, is because that has to be one of the questions that I get a lot, like a lot. People ask me that question so much. Can it be made in the bread machine and how would you do it? So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to do that today. Also, another thing is I'm going to be weighing this recipe in grams. I think that that is part of the reason why some of you guys struggle with this recipe, is because you probably aren't getting an accurate measurement of the products. So we're going to go ahead and weigh this out in grams today. If you don't have a scale, I highly suggest getting one. They are very cheap, and a lot of my recipes from now on I will start doing them in gram measurements. The ones that I know people struggle the most with, and the ones that are very finicky about how much of each ingredient you need to put in there, those will be done in grams. So that's pretty much it for the introduction of this. We're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my scale on, and I'm going to make sure that the units is in grams. It is. And now we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so this is a take two. You guys are not going to see the part where I messed up, but I totally read my recipe wrong as I was getting started. So I'm going to have to start again. So new bowl, and I will tell you guys why in just a second. So I've got my bowl on my scale. I've got it zeroed out, and I'm going to be starting off with 175 grams of vital wheat gluten. In the first take of this, I did it with 175 grams of Lupin Flour. And that wouldn't have been so bad if I hadn't added another ingredient to it already. So now I got to start over with the new bowl. And you're going to want to zero your scale out every time you add a new ingredient. I hope you guys can see the scale and the numbers up there. So I'm going to go ahead and zero that out. And now I'm going to grab my bowl that I previously added too much stuff to it. And as you can see, I have my oat fiber piled up over here, my Lupin flour piled up over there, and I don't want to waste this. So I'm going to scoop some out of here. And since they're on separate sides, it'll be fine. I'm going to be adding 70 grams of Lupin flour. Okay, and as you can see, I was able to do that without totally disturbing the oat fiber over here. But I'm not going to take the oat fiber from this bowl. And so now, zeroing that out again, I'm going to be adding 57 grams of oat fiber. Okay, next I'm going to be adding my sweetener in. Now, I leave that up to you guys how much you want to put in, if you want to do it at all. If not, I've got some pure here. I find that that works the best in this recipe, and I'm going to be adding 15 grams of this. If you're using a sweetener that is not double the sweetness, then you're going to want to take that up to 30 grams. Now to this, I'm going to be adding 5.5 grams of salt. And now if you don't feel confident doing it this way, adding your ingredients all together in one bowl and fearing that you might mix it up, then go ahead and measure it out separately. Now to this, I'm going to be adding some ascorbic acid, and that is just to help it to stay fresh longer. You do not have to add this. This is completely optional. And this is going to be 3.5 grams of this if you're adding it. And finally, I'm going to be adding some xanthan gum to the mix, and we're just going to be adding 2.5 grams of this. Okay, and that completes our dry ingredients, and now you just want to go ahead and whisk that up. Okay, now we want to go ahead and move on to our water. Now, when you make bread in a bread machine, they suggest that you put your liquids in, then your flour, and sprinkle the yeast on top. You can absolutely do it that way if you want. For me, I like to just go ahead and mix my yeast in the water already. So to each their own, do it however you prefer. Now, when I make this recipe in a bread machine, I cut down how much yeast I put in it because it will tend to cook up too much and cook up too high, and I've had this lid be like this before. So I cut it down to just using a packet, and this has 7 grams of yeast. And so I will make that adjustment because this is going to be the bread machine version. But for the regular version, if you're just gonna put it in loaf pans and stick it in the oven, I like to put in 16.5 grams of yeast, which is just a tablespoon of yeast. And then I'm gonna add in a teaspoon of honey. And I'm just gonna eyeball that, and you can do this step or not. You don't actually have to feed, you don't have to feed rapid rise yeast, that type of thing. You don't have to feed it with honey to activate it or any kind of sugar to activate it, but I do it anyway. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get our ingredients added to our bread machine pans here. And this is 2 tablespoons of some softened butter. And now I have 2 room temperature eggs. And then I'll go ahead and add my yeast water here. And this is a cup of water. If I did not say so before, it is 1 cup of water. Now I'm going to go ahead and just sprinkle my flour mixture here over the top of this. Okay, so now that that's done, you can go ahead and put this in your bread machine. And now this is where things get a little bit interesting. So for me, I found that doing low carb breads, when I make low carb breads, I had another machine before and it did not let me customize the settings. And that's why I decided to go ahead and get another one and replace it with one that will let you customize the settings. If your machine won't let you do that, if you can't customize your settings on your machine, what I would suggest you do is I would definitely suggest that you let it do the mixing in the machine. And even when I do it in here, I still have to come in and shape my bread and then let it sit and do the rising in here. So I don't let it just automatically go to rising because I like it to have a nice smooth shape and all that stuff. So I will go ahead and still do the shaping to make sure it looks nice and presentable. So if your machine won't let you customize it, just go ahead and take it out at that point because it's gonna, do the rise and then it will, knock the air out of it and then it'll do the rise again. You don't want that to happen. So take it out of there and just let it rise. If your kitchen is warm enough in your kitchen, or if you've seen my other bread video, try doing the microwave technique for the rising if you want. But if you can customize your machine, this is what I want you to do. So I'm going to go ahead and just set up a new one, even though I already have this set up on my machine. I'm going to set up a new one so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on this, my custom, and I'm going to do a rapid rise. I'm going to pick what kind of crust that I like. I like mine's at a medium, but you can go dark or you can go light, but just know that it will adjust the cook time. To me, a medium is perfect, so I'm going to click that. For size, I like to take mine up to 2 pounds, even though this loaf is I think this loaf is a little shy of 2 pounds, but I take mine up to 2 pounds, and I do that because it adds just a little bit more cook time, a few more minutes, and I like that texture of the bread that comes out with that one. So I'm going to select that. I'm not going to adjust the kneading time, not at all. I'm going to leave all of that the same. The rise time, I'm going to leave that, the rise temperature of 90 degrees, I'm going to leave that the same as well. I'm going to leave all the rising times set to the same. So the first rise is set for 15 minutes. And then when it goes to punch down, I'm going to turn that down to 0 seconds so it will not do the punch down. The second rise is set for 10 minutes. I'm going to leave that at 10 minutes. And then the punch down will come up again. I'm going to turn that all the way down to 0 because we don't want that. And then the third rise is going to be for 30 minutes. So I'm going to leave that right where it's at. Bake time is 50 minutes. I'm totally fine with that. The temperature is 284 degrees. Works best for me. And then I'll have the keep warm setting on here. You don't have to have that on if you don't want, but I'll have mine on for an hour. Hit select, and that's it. Those are my settings for this bread. So if you want to do those settings, that is exactly what you do. Now, if you don't have a machine that will let you customize, like I said, just take it out during the rising time. Let the machine keep running and let your bread rise on its own, and check on your machine so you know when it's getting to the bake setting, and then go ahead, pause it, take your pan out, put your bread into it, be careful, make sure that it should only be warm, it shouldn't be hot, as long as you catch it before it starts to really heat up. So put your bread in, go ahead and close it up and let it continue to bake. But that's pretty much how I do it, and I'll show you the results of this when we come back. I'm not going to come back and show you me shaping it. Just know that once it's done doing all the mixing and stuff, and it starts its first rise, I will stop, shape my bread, put it back in, and then I'm not going to come back and check on this until it's done. So I'll be back when this is completely done and ready to show you guys. So my bread is done. It has had a little time to cool off. And as you can see, I have had some deflation. And it's so funny because I have literally baked this bread 4 times in the last 2 weeks, and it came out absolutely perfect. And on film day, that is the day that it decides to deflate some. But I'm actually glad that it did, because this is probably the most asked about question that I get, is why is my bread having deflation? And you guys, there's sometimes, when you tell me your stories, I can sometimes be able to assist you and help you. But without me being there, I really can't tell you why that is. Like, there are some common reasons that cause deflation. And then sometimes you just get something like this. This loaf, the recipe did not change. Nothing changed today. And yet I have some deflation. All my ingredients are fresh. Everything is as it has been. And yet this loaf looks like this today. It doesn't look all nice and smooth on the top like the other ones have looked. So sometimes you just get a loaf like this. And that's why I decided, because I thought about, maybe I could just go ahead and just refilm this video, do it again, so I can get a nice, beautiful, perfect loaf. But no, I want you guys to see, even I sometimes have things like this happen to me in my kitchen. Sometimes it just happens. Every so often, you'll get something like this. But I'm gonna go ahead and slice this up anyway, and we'll see what we have on the inside. I'm expecting maybe there to be a couple of air pockets, maybe at the top or something like that, because I can tell that there's one right there. So how that ended up happening, I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe when I did the shaping, maybe you know, there was some air that was already getting contained in there and I didn't, you know, press it down enough and release any of that. So who knows? Let's go ahead and cut into this and see what we got. And as you guys know, I like to use my little bread slicer here. I think someone like commented one time, I don't know if it was a guy or a lady, but they thought it was hilarious that I use this thing. But you guys, I'm telling you, I am very anal about symmetry. I like things to have symmetry. So I can't just go slicing at this without a guide, because if my bread slices are not even, it's going to trigger me. It's going to bother me. So I can't help it. So I have no choice. I have to use this because I can't cut it well on my own. So let's go ahead and get this cut open. So here it is all cut up. And now that I've gotten it cut, and I can totally tell that there is a difference in the texture of this bread. So I think what probably was the issue this time around was, I think maybe I ended up just adding a touch too much water. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. Sometimes I'm like that when I'm filming. So maybe I ended up with a little bit more than a cup of water in there. And that's probably what ended up causing the issues, because the bread feels very, I don't want to say moist. It's not wet, but it feels really soft and not the same texture that it was the previous 4 times that I had made this recently. So I think that's what ended up happening, that I just kind of used a little bit too much water. And like I said, usually you can kind of diagnose it, kind of figure it out and try to see what's going on. But then sometimes you just can't figure it out. There is no rhyme or reason to it, and you just end up with a bad loaf. But I definitely think this one is on me. Not that it's a bad loaf, it's just not as perfect as I would have liked it to have been. Now, I don't eat plain bread. Like, that's just not my thing. The only time I eat plain bread is if it's with a sandwich, and I'm not going to make a sandwich. So I have lightly toasted a slice of the bread here, and I have some cashew butter. Very little left, you guys. Oh my God. I've been eating this stuff like crazy because I've been making it like crazy, and it's just so delicious. So I'm just going to go ahead and probably add the very last of it to this slice of toast, and I'm going to finish this off. And my daughter, her little hamster, oh my God, she freaking loves the cashew butter, you guys. It's like her total fave. So me and her be in this kitchen. She's on the island or in my hands, and she's eating her bit of cashew butter, and I've got mine's, and it's the cutest thing ever. Okay, and now that looks absolutely fantastic to me. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a try. Oh my goodness, 1 second. That is so good, you guys. Oh my gosh, that is my fave. The only thing that I note that's a little bit different is the bread seems to be it has a little chewiness to it. So definitely I think I added just a smidgen, and I do mean a smidgen too much water. So I'm gonna definitely be mindful of that next time. But usually when I'm making this, I'm not filming or rushing, and so I get it right. But that is it. That's how you make it in the bread machine. It's totally easy. It's totally doable. So that is going to be all I have today. I hope this video helps you guys to get to be able to make better bread, because so many of you guys have been struggling. And so I hope these new measurements will help you to be more successful. I hope you guys are able to make it in your bread machines and it turns out perfectly for you. And that's all I've got today, you guys. This is my keto Lupin bread made in the bread machine. If you like this video, go ahead and give me that thumbs up. Hit that like button for me. If you're new here, click that subscribe button and don't forget to ding that little bell so you can get notifications every time I upload a new video. And until next time, you guys, Bye.